This video has been produced for the use of all students enrolled in the EPO 322 Diesel Engineering 2 simulation course held at Cal Maritime. This is the second of two tutorials covering how to complete Lesson 4 using the Kongsberg Diesel Simulator. All right, to start out, the first thing we're going to do is close the breakers for equipment that we're going to be using. On the starters page, both the lube oil pumps, the main lube oil, the camshaft, and stern tube. Next, we go to feeders, get the steering gear, auxiliary blower, and the main engine turning gear. And then on the emergency, we'll pick up the steering gear number 2 and the TG lube oil priming pump. It's very important at this point, too, before you move forward, you go to the start air system and you put from the bottle that is supplying air to the system, open the outlet to the control air, main engine control air. The reason is that puts air to your spring air on the main engine and closes all the exhaust valves, and that has to be done prior to startup of the lube oil system. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to go to the stern tube, and there's oil in the tank. The high gravity is full, but we're going to be going over to the low gravity because we're empty. So we're going to shift to the lower tank, and I'm going to manually start up the lube oil pump. And we're going to just leave it in manual with one pump running until the low gravity tank is full and starts to overflow. While we're waiting for that, we're going to go over to the main lube oil system. And we're going to start lining up the main engine lube oil. First thing we check that the cylinder lube oil day tank is over 0.7 meters, which it is. That the camshaft lube oil sump is over 0.7, it is. And that the main sump is over 1 meter, so we're good. Now we're going to line up to one of the lube oil coolers. We're going to open the bypass. We're going to set the set point for the temperature controller at 45°C. We're going to put it in automatic. We're going to set for the camshaft the same temperature, 45°C. We're going to line up for the back flushing filter, and then the main engine bearings. On the camshaft system, we just have to line up one of the camshaft lube oil filters. Once that's done, we're going to start up one of the main lube oil pumps, and we're going to check that we get oil to the bearings. The temperature of the main engine lube oil is low. This should clear. Our pressures now has come up on the inlet to the bearings, so we're good there. Okay. Now, once this is established, I'm going to put both pumps in remote, and here's your oil to your bearings. I'm going to start up a camshaft lube oil pump. And then once that's running again, check to make sure that you have flow to your running gear. We'll go look at our stern tube. We're up to and overflowing, so we can now put both of these in automatic. Once done, now we can open the indicator cocks and start rolling over the main engine. Go to panel directory, engine room virtual view. That's the virtual reality view. And we'll go up and we'll start opening on the indicator cocks. So for each cylinder, All right. And let's go, we'll head down and we're going to engage the turning gear. And start it running in the forward direction. Okay. So the engine is now turning over slowly on the turning gear. We want to do that early because we want at least typically about 30 minutes prior to getting underway, you're going to roll the main engine over on the jacking gear. All right. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to line up our steam system. So on the steam plant, let's go to the oil-fired boiler. We're going to line up a circ pump. Wait for the flow to establish. We'll go ahead and put both of those in auto. And we're going to open the damper above the main engines. We have a very short maneuvering, so we're going to maneuver out on the exhaust gas, with the exhaust gas boiler having flow through it. If we had a long maneuvering at a slow RPM, I would not do this because I'd be more worried about soot collection when at low volume. But we're going to have a fairly short maneuvering, so we're going to go ahead and open that up. Now I'm going to go look at putting on my steam turbine. We're going to open up one of the filters and go ahead and put the lube oil priming pump in automatic. And we're going to engage the turning gear. We're going to be lighting off the steam turbo generator using superheated steam from the main boiler, but we're just warming up, so I'm only going to open it up 5%. We're going to open the superheated steam drain. This is the drain from your gland sealing steam, and this is the main turbine exhaust to the condenser. I'm going to put on the gland sealing steam, and then we can start now raising vacuum. So we'll go to the condenser, and I'll start up a vacuum pump. And then we're going to wait until we have a good vacuum before we proceed. The saltwater system, get it ready for going to sea. We're going to start up one of the main saltwater pumps. Wait for your pressure to come up. Secure the auxiliary. Put both pumps in remote. We'll go back to the steam turbine, or excuse me, to the steam turbine condenser. Increase your flow rate through the condenser to 25%. We'll go to our freshwater system. We're going to start one of the main low temperature freshwater pumps. Wait till the pressure come up. Go ahead and shut down the auxiliary. Put both in remote. Both charge air coolers should be set at 100% flow. And then we'll line up both charge air coolers. Since I have number 1 lube oil cooler open, we'll put water to that. Camshaft, turbo generator, and here's to your stern tube. Same thing on the high temperature fresh water. We'll go ahead and turn off the steam. Open up the bypass. Put a high temperature fresh water main pump on. Wait for the pressure to come up and this low pressure to clear. And we'll go ahead and put both of these in remote. All right, then we're going to go to our pump compressor control, and we're going to put all of these, you see they're all ready here. We'll put all of them in auto. Let's see, why are we not, oh, we forgot the camshaft. Okay. All right, now we've got a ready light. We're going to leave this off for now because I've seen where there's been having a little bit of problem with wanting to run both pumps. That's one thing, check that you're not running both pumps. So for right now, until we get ready to get underway, we're going to leave that out of auto. All right. Now, let's go look at our steam turbine. And we've got a good vacuum. So we're ready to start it up. So we're going to take out the turning gear. Get the reset. And then go up to about a 15%. And we're going to start bringing that up on the line. Okay, let's go back and while we're waiting for that to come up, let's start looking at everything again. Saltwater system looks good. All right. While we're doing that, let's do our standby check of our system. And we're going to check that the pumps, indeed, if they have a failure, the redundant pump will start up. We're only going to do it on the seawater, low temp, and high temp freshwater. To do this, what we do is we go to Process Directory. We're going to go to Starters, and I'm going to, for the #1 saltwater pump, I'm going to shut the power off. Now, so you've got an upset, and we want to look. We had a low lube oil, saltwater line supply pressure, and we had a power chief pump control auto fail. Both of those we want to see. We had #2 pump start up. We're going to put the power back on. Put #1 on. Wait for it to establish pressure. Turn #2 off and put it back in auto. So now we know that that system does indeed work. We'll do the low temp next. Okay. That's our alarms. Take it out. We've got pump pressure up. So we'll go back to Starters. Put #1 on. And then take #2 off. Now, one of the things too, you know, I have 2 screens on here, and when I'm doing this, I am also typically looking at the system and how the system reacts. Last one, let's do our high temp. So high temp, there's the one that's on. So, whoops. So there my #2 came on. Put our breaker back in. Start our #1. And again, normally I'm watching the system and watching the pressures as I do this. So now I'm back in auto. Okay, so we have done all of those. Let's go look at our steam turbine generator. We're only up about 410 RPM. We're going to start bringing that up. It's been warming up for at least 3 to 4 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. And when I'm going to bring this up, I went to 20 from 15. I'm going to do 25. And what I am watching is the RPM. I'm watching the governor, which is 100% open right now. And we're emitting steam. I also need to kind of keep an eye on my lube oil tank temperature. which comes up quite high on this. It's when everything's normalized, it's more in this around 60 C, so we're still fairly cool. RPM's coming up. Let's go to 30. I'm also watching my vibration. I don't want it to start vibrating. Let's go to 35. We're at 2,000 RPM right now, 2,400, and the set point for the governor is 6,300. $40. RPM coming up. Let's go to 50. Why this is reacting fairly slow too is, remember, on our oil-fired boiler, we're only about 5% open. Okay, we're at 6,400. I can open this up 100%. And we're up to speed. So we can go ahead and open our... We can open up 100% of the superheated steam off our oil-fired boiler. And we can go ahead and put this on the line. At this point, I've got good dry superheated steam, so I'm going to go ahead and shut my drain off. I'm going to start a main condensate pump. We're going to bring up, put excitation, and adjust it for about 440 volts. Now I'm going to be using both of my screens to manually put this on the line. It's hard to jump back and forth, but I'm going to have both this screen open and the synchronizing screen open. We're going to put it on turbo generator, and then we can watch as that's spinning, and we're going to engage it at 11 o'clock. Now my other one, I'll bring up the turbo generator. Now one thing I notice is my voltage is identical. We usually want the incoming voltage to be about 2%, or excuse me, 2 to 5 volts higher. So I'm going to put in, say, 52 here. Bring it up a little bit. My frequency is a little bit on the high side, so I'm going to decrease that down a little bit. The simulator likes it more at a slower pace, and when these are green, that's what it's telling you, that the voltage is in line, frequency in line. And when this gets to 11 o'clock, I'm going to connect it. You may get a TG high outlet temperature as you're putting this on the line, but once it's on the line, that will come down. Don't forget to turn off your synchroscope. And then I'm going to go to turbo generator again, and I want to bring up the power. I want to put some power. Now, right now you actually have both generators on the line. The power management system automatically started this up, and it is, if this one of these falls down into the green, it will shut it off. So I've got the turbo generator connected now, but at a fairly low power. I'm going to bring the power up, and when I do so, this will drop down and it will shut diesel generator number 1 off because it is priority 2. Okay, the bridge is requesting your assistance in testing the steering gear. Let's finish this up really quick, and then we can do that. All right. So all I have to do is increase my governor setting, and I like to bring this up to about 250. That's good enough. And we'll go ahead and put it in auto. And then what's going to happen is diesel generator number 1, it's already taking it off the line now. It'll let it run for a while for a cool down. You want to check, but it should shut the generator down after 4 or 5 minutes. All right, so that's what's supplying our power, is the steam turbine generator on the boiler burning heavy fuel oil, and the diesel generator number 2 also burning heavy, and diesel generator number 1 that was on distillate is secured. So let's accommodate the mates and do the steering gear. On this, basically open each of your drops, close these bypass valves. The Safematic valve block needs to be engaged. All of your stops on the control box, all 4, place it in remote, and then put the steering gear in remote. Once you do that, the bridge will automatically test the steering gear, and it's asking you for you to monitor it. So basically what you do is you sit back and watch on this. Kind of while they're doing that, I'm going to go back and check my steam turbine generator. Okay, and my temperature on the lube oil is coming up, so I want to remember to put the cooling water on it. I have flow. We have, let's check our vacuum. Vacuum is good. Our condensate pump's on. Okay. I am on from the oil-fired boiler, superheated steam. So everything looks pretty good. All right, let's go back and watch the mate. He's still testing the steering gear. He's going to test it 32 degrees to 32 degrees using the number 1 pump. Then he will switch over to the number 2 unit and also test it, and then he will leave it on number 2. The reason being is that number 2 comes off your emergency board, and most captains typically like to be on the steering gear in a maneuvering situation off the emergency. So I switch it over now. Now, while we're waiting him to do that, let's talk a little bit about this unit. This Safematic. You notice that both of the sumps, this is different than what you have on the Bear. Both of these sumps are flooded from the expansion tank. The idea being, if there was a hydraulic leak, this expansion tank would automatically supply oil to the sump to compensate for any leak. If it was a major leak, though, what could happen is this expansion tank would start to drain, and there is a diaphragm here in the middle that goes up about 3/4 of the way or half the way, and each supplies. So once you go down below that diaphragm, the supplies to each unit would be separate. Then what happens is the Safematic, this valve block, would open and then automatically open the bypass on the other side. On, like, say, this running this unit, this bypass would open and the Safematic would open, so that if the oil leak was on this side, it wouldn't drain the other unit. And this is required by international law now. So if your expansion tank level drains down to a certain point, the Safematic block would shift to prevent you from draining all the oil out of the system. So now he wants to test the emergency telegraph, and he wants to do it in EOS first. Okay, so we're going to go to engine room virtual view. And basically, we'll put this in, lock in. This was actually, we'll talk about this in class, but this is shifting on the lever, and we're going to put this in for remote operation, and we're going to shift to remote. Once we've done that, he's going to start testing. So we've shifted to engine control room. Emergency in here is local, and this remote is engine control room. Go to panel directory, main engine control, and then we're going to follow him on the telegraph. This is a requirement for whenever you have prior to getting underway or arrival, you have to test the telegraph. So we just follow him. Now, normally you wouldn't use a telegraph on these ships during normal situations because you're under bridge control. So this telegraph is just a series of buttons to tell you what the engine order is, and it would be very rarely used, only really used in an emergency typically. Okay, now he's going to want to do it at the local station. So we'll go back. Okay. She's not wanting to shift for some reason here, so I'm going to go, the other place is we go to local control. And we can shift to local control here. Okay. And then we just follow him at the local. So this is the non-virtual reality coming off of process directory, local control, or you can do it at using the virtual reality by going to panel directory, engine room virtual view. Either works. Though when you're in the full mission, I like you using the virtual. Alright, so we've finished testing the steering gear, and now the chief mate has requested that the engine room place power on the deck machinery. To do that, go to process directory, electric power plant. This bus tie, you close. Then we go to the starters. And make sure you put on the right one, not the bow thruster. You want to put on deck machinery. Bow thruster is only done when the captain requests it. All right. So that pretty much completes this. We're going to take a look at, so I think we're pretty much done. I want to detect, and I've got 1 minute left. So you can see this one keeps you busy. This one you're definitely busy. My stern tube is good. Electric power plant, I think I'm good. Generators look good, and it did shut down. Salt water looks fine. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put the camshaft lube oil pump in auto and keep an eye on it and see if number 2 starts. All right, so let's see how we did. So I'm going to go ahead and halt it. 29 minutes. All right. So we've got all our greens and no reds and 100%. Okay. So it's not that hard, but this one does keep you busy. You're moving through the whole thing. And don't try to hurry this. Don't try and do it early. One of the tricks on this is that they're not going to ask, the bridge is not going to ask to have you test the steering gear until you complete most of the other jobs. So you want to put your steam turbine on. You want to get your systems lined up. All of that done. And then as soon as you do, it will then request you to test the steering gear. Or it's set up so it's either when you complete most of those general tasks, or once 20 minutes has gone by, it will, at 20 minutes, it will automatically ask you to test the steering gear. And so we're pretty much completed. Now, critical achievements. The stern tube must be operational. The main engine bearings, the lube oil system must be normal. Main engine camshaft, lube oil system must be normal. Turning gear engaged. Turbine hot and ready for service. Steering gear ready to test. Or EOS, EOT test completed. All of that has to be done for you to pass. Critical errors. You shouldn't be any reason why you would do that, but don't overflow the camshaft lube oil tank. The turning gear, if you run that with no oil flow to the bearings, I don't like you running the engine and turning it over on the jacking gear without lube oil flow. Turning gear run no and air to the main engine. You're not going to be starting this engine on this scenario. There's no reason to put air to the main engine at all. And the captain hasn't requested power on the bow thruster. Don't put power on the bow thruster. I do have, I think, about a 30-second delay on that, or a 60-second delay, in case that you accidentally do it and immediately take it out. That's fine. Exhaust valve overextend, no spring air. And that's the easy one to get caught on. Make sure that you put air on the main engine control air right away so that all your exhaust valves closed. Anyway, that's how to successfully complete this. See, it's not that hard. But again, you know, this one, you are kept pretty busy and you do need to move through the whole thing. Thank you very much for your patience. Bye.